Hello, and welcome to Kiss and Tell magazine. Dr. Jenny, good to see you.
Good to see you.
We're here for another episode. We are ready to share and to kiss and to tell what we've been doing and what we've been talking about. Today's guest is one of my personal friends, Asha Sims. I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. She's going to tell you a little bit about her. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about KNT real quick. Thank you so much for joining us today for another episode of Kiss and Tell's magazine's podcast. And just our upcoming things that we've got is our Cliteracy conference that we had last year. We've got the videos are available for purchase. You can listen to those. We had some amazing speakers. Again, our Cliteracy conference, it was a lot of fun getting to talk about all of those things, and who wouldn't? We also then have the male version of Cliteracy conference that's all about our men folk, and that's going to be in November of this year. So we have some months, but in November, we'll be releasing more information about that. So make sure you come join in, listen. If there's folks that you want to hear from, send us in your information into Kiss and Tell, and we'll be happy to consider those and to put those into the program. So anything else, Dr. Jenny, that I have missed before we want to get into our guest today?
No, thank you, Dr. Sabrina.
Brilliant. Okay, lovely. So I've got, as I said, my good friend Asha Sims here with us today. She is in Charlotte, North Carolina area. She's a therapist, a healer. She also is a teacher, a mentor, a supervisor within the therapy world. And outside of that, within the personal, professional, body, mind, and spirit, for sure, approach to the way that she does things. She currently, it may have just ended, but I know one of the last things that she did was a shamanic Reiki class for practitioners and to be able to get their certification levels. She has a thing going on with the lotus spot. We're going to hear a little bit about that. And so she's been definitely going more in the direction. And of course, Asha, you'll get to throw in whatever else you need to correct me on these or to add. But it definitely also in a sexual health direction as well, and just kind of whether it's tantric-ish practices or breathing or just, I know you're learning more, Asha, and that's reflecting in your practice. So the lotus spot, we're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, I just want to say a big welcome and thank you for joining us on Kiss and Tell magazine and our podcast. And so, hello, lovely lady, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Welcome.
Welcome. Well, yeah, thank you. Welcome me too. So, Asha, what I think, well, I'm going to be talking to you like my friend, of course, because you are, but also then getting to share what it is that you do. And the bigger thing is one, tell us what it is that you want to know kind of about yourself. But my bigger question for you then is, clearly you're a seeker, you're a therapist, you're an educator, you're putting programs out there, you're learning things, you just came back from a trip to Jamaica, like you're obviously living your life and doing this. Why? What was the purpose of this? What are you seeking? Why are you doing this? What, and why? So tell us a little bit about you and kind of like what is your fuel that's driving this amazingness that you're doing these things that you're doing out in the world.
And those are still questions I sit and wonder, why me? What am I doing?
Yeah.
But I can see in that process, I see why. But in all the titles that we sometimes put things in, and it's just in order to identify what some of the word, yes, all of that is that. But really what my work is just helping others to recognize the light and the power that they are as an individual. And with the population that I'm working with now, often my work really does center around my personal experience, my life, even just being a therapist based upon past childhood things and wanting to provide places for people to speak and be free to work through their issues. So I originally was working with at-risk youth, helping them have a voice. I always had an attachment, like they just need to be heard. Then it moved into working with the parents. After a while, I'm doing all this work, but it's the parents that's stuck. We can do all this change.
Yes.
But if this part is still the same, they're going to revert back. So that's when I'm always manifestor generator trying to figure out, okay, I see this. Can I do this? What is my part that I can do to add to it? It's always been just a drive of mine. So as I approach a point in time in life in a marriage after I've successfully built up things the way I saw it, my vision, having group homes now, me and my bossy butt, I don't have to work in a system of things. I own them. You know, this is perfect. Married, the life, beautiful life. And then all of a sudden, awareness of being in an emotional abusive relationship with a narcissistic personality. Me being a therapist was not aware of this. I don't go into relationships to diagnose people, but it was at that
Yes.
point, you know, but people always say, you trying to be my therapist. No, you really don't want me to be your therapist. I can really be a little bit more open with you in that relationship than worrying about how you feel
You know
and
what?
waking up and, you know, you mad at me. But either way, it was that awareness of the dynamics in a relationship that I was in and how it's impacted me in that marriage. And it really awoke me up to a lot of things. Even that's when I started delving more into the energy work, the metaphysical work. And that's where my healing began. I always tell people energy work, Reiki shifted my life totally. That's where really my path, when I was spending a lot of time by myself in these cycles, when the mood disorders and the distancing and isolating me, and I'm just there with myself, is where I started doing the studying, understanding the chakras. And with my master's degree, I was like, if I would have known about the chakras before I have all these loans, I would have stuck with this, you know. But
There's a lot of things we would learn differently, I think, in
right,
therapy
a
school.
lot.
I think a lot of us would say that we know our path.
Right, it got me where I needed, but yes, so that was a major time for me. And at that time, after coming out of that and having the power to leave those dynamics, as we know, taking your control back from a controlling relationship takes a lot, and a lot came with that. My rebuilding came from my community of women that I depend on, because in some aspect, culturally and just in general, you always talk, don't trust women, don't trust around your men, all this stuff to keep you from not having that community. Well, I came from a community of very positive masculine energy. My dad was involved. I'm the only female cousin my age. I'm the oldest of 3 brothers. I'm surrounded by positive masculine energy. But that divorce,
I love that for you.
yes, I mean, I can't say that. So after that divorce, when the rug was ripped up from me after leaving and the repercussions, I had to redefine a lot of trust in myself, and my support came from my community, the feminine energy. I had very powerful masculine energy, but I couldn't take it to them, because if I would have took those emotions, and I got 6'4" tall brothers, you know, all of them are taller than me now. Dad's still alive, 6'4". I couldn't really be that vulnerability with them because I didn't want them to have this response. So that is where that started the journey of feminine energy, and then awakening of me now.
Can I ask you, hold on,
yes.
can I interrupt you real quick? So a couple things I just want to clarify real quick, and this is beautiful so far what you've shared. Earlier you were talking a little bit about the spaces that you want to create, like as a therapist or just as a human, that's also led you into stuff that's maybe not just therapy work, right? Energy work and your Reiki and the other things that you may be doing. And you said about your community and like who is your community, who are, obviously I know that we're for everybody, you know, and from the therapist realm, I suppose, but at the same time, we also know we're not for everybody, and we do have niches, and we do have communities of people that we work better in, that, you know. So can you tell me, who is it that you predominantly either from any of these places work with, or that you feel that you shine the best with? Can you tell me who your community is?
My community is me. It's reflections of me. It shows up professionally. Often my clients that come to me are reflections of me. They've had some of the same, that goes back to that energy imprint. So even when I do create events and things that I do, I create it from a space of, if I was a therapist, how would I want to be? If I wanted to go to this event, what kind of event would I go to?
Yes. What do I want to see?
The reflection, I would say my clients or my friends and whatever, they're all reflections. So however you fit in, whether it's professional coming from the mental health, whether it's friends and of the like-minded, how we attract. I would say you're a reflection of myself. So at this time, those now I'm aware of that in that frequency, they're reflections of me, and that's how I operate. However it shows up, sometimes it may not show up the way you want it to show up, but I
Right, you
have
think,
grace
right,
for
because we don't want to admit all the reflections. We don't always
right,
like what we see in all these
right.
mirrors.
We always want the
Everybody's mirrors
good,
to us.
but we
Yep.
never want
We
the
shatter and
shadow
reject some of
part.
those, don't we? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. And I love that. Yes. And they all are. And again, everybody is a mirror, whether or not we want to admit it. And that's the thing, is whether or not we want to admit it. But in order for us to be able to see a behavior, a personality, we would have to have an awareness of it. It would have to already be active in our own field in order for us to see it in someone else.
Yep.
So
And
yes, I thank you for explaining this.
yeah, it has to be.
Yes.
It's asked me, do you feel people are ready for communal living? At one point in time, I might say, I don't know, only because I feel like, as we know in life, there's cycles. There has been a
Yep.
major cycle of people going in. I don't know about you, but my therapy cases have picked up. People are now like, there's something I need to release. I don't know what
Seeking
it is.
community like crazy. This
So they have to go
individual
within.
nation. Yeah.
Right, first to actually be community. In some way, if you don't know self, you can be a danger. It was some at point in times,
Oh, for
I
sure.
certain people, I don't
You're a
want to
danger
be
to your own
around.
community.
Right, right.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Self-worth. Who
Yeah.
am I
You
around?
are a community
You have to
all
do the
by
work. Looking
yourself,
inward.
and you've got lots of people that's included in, that's your internal littles, the people that were
Mhm.
stuck at different times of trauma, your internal parents, lovers, whoever. You got a whole
Right.
community of people with thoughts and ideas
Mhm.
contributing to who you are. And if you don't have a handle on your internal community, you absolutely are going to put yourself in all kind of funky external communities for
It's
sure, and then
reflection
screw them up
again.
equally.
It's reflections of who we are.
So,
And if we
Yes.
don't like that, then we got to look at self. And often we don't want to do that in order to change it, which goes back to even our sex life.
For sure. We
You
want to
know,
blame everybody else. Everybody
oh,
else needs to change, not me, right? Like we want everything else to change. What that's funny. Were you going to say something, Jenny?
yeah.
Pop in.
So I wanted to ask you a question from a layperson point of view. I mean, I'm a therapist too.
mm-hmm.
However, the dialogue that's happening here is easy back and forth because the three of us know exactly what you're saying. But from a layperson sitting here watching us, they could be thinking, what the hell are you talking about? And so can you define some of it so we don't lose some people watching? How would you define the journey of learning you are your own community? So how would you say
Good.
that? How would you say that to a layperson? Or a
I love
client
that.
that you meet the first time? How would you say it?
I think it still goes back to keeping it simple of just looking at self and what's around you and who's around you and how has it impacted you to know who you are, to even know your community, because often we may have those around us that come from our traumas. They're trauma bonds, meaning we're attached to certain people, things that make us feel safe, but they may not be the healthiest for us, but it makes us feel comfortable.
Mhm.
So in that aspect, when I say of coming into self, is at some point in time, we're like, I feel I need to change. I am ready to look at things different. I'm ready to look at some of the things that I didn't want to acknowledge in the past, but now are ready. And so that's when I say in community is those of, I always say anybody that comes to me for therapy often are already coming with a certain insight of this is what I need. It's not me having to explain this is what a chakra is, or this is what energy is. Already like, I already see this and this is what I want. Oh, and it's a therapist that does this.
Mhm.
So it's
Yep.
just, if a person is doing their self-study and inquiring, because that's where I was at one point in time. Like I said, I always say I came Black woman from the South, grew up in the Presbyterian church, was a whole nother experience. But at this time, hearing about energy work, Reiki is like, what is that?
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Taboo. No, that's not what you're
Yep.
taught to look at. I'm hearing about Wiccan and all this, and I'm like, it just scared me. But after a while, I still was studying. It was calling me. So
Yep.
then it just became a part. So at one point in time, I didn't know anything about it, but that's why I would say what I teach, my therapy through everything now, what you see is the experience of learning that. And that's why I would say step one for me came
Seeking.
from that energy work from what I saw, and I need a mentor. I want to learn more. And boom, I had one that appeared.
Yes.
So now it's
Yeah.
like I
Ask and
feel
it is given
that's
type
what
thing.
I want to do for other women that have been in that dark space of not being able to connect with themselves, to show you there's a light in you. I was where if you see this as a light, and I shine bright now, I have to put my red lipstick on, especially if I'm talking about sensuality. And my hair, I have to shine bright. I want the world to see, but I've been in the dark. I've been at a place that was low, and I had to embrace a lot of womanhood and who I am. I became a mom after I got divorced. I
Embracing the
became
darkness.
41. I became a mother at 41. So, woo, it was a lot about who am I? And I didn't even know I could get pregnant. So I always say, just I had to learn so much about me. And through that, being now on the other side and needing support, who I am was a reflection in those who came to support me. So I always say it was a lot of really purging things, that some things people and weren't best for me, but at that time of thinking, oh, I need you because the rug was pulled up under me and I need help for this, that codependency that came from some things in childhood kept me in a pattern of a certain relationship. So my thing is now to show others, you don't have to stay there. You can't heal. We don't have to.
Totally.
This is what healing can do for you. And I'm here to show you how to heal, not to teach you. I would tell you, don't put me on a pedestal. It's in you.
Right. It's to be an example for them to learn for themselves, for sure.
So I take all
And
my
Jenny,
professional titles and put it in just being me
is to be
to show you.
to be a living example, like all people, right? Like, here's how I'm living and learned how to rock out, and it's working. Here's what I've learned along the way, and let me help share it to you so that you could rock out. Jenny, I also wanted to answer that question in another way as well, just to use some slightly different vocabulary. What you originally had asked too is like with the metaphysicalness of community and of kind of, we're using some law of attraction or manifesting language, metaphysical language. And so if you come from even slightly still metaphysical, but more along law of attraction, is magnetism. If we want to talk about what like attracts like we understand that makes sense, that if you put a group of humans, a whole bunch of humans in a room together, they're going to start clumping together naturally after a while. And if you go to those groups, you're going to figure out that they've separated themselves by similarities. It might be that they're all wearing the same color. They all might have red lipstick on. They all are therapists, and they're all, obvious things or not obvious things. They're going like attracts like, whether or not it's what happens. And so community, I think, also from that place, and when we're talking about these mirrors, that everybody's mirrors or reflections of us, then it's this acknowledgement that, well, we are a community. We do need to raise ourselves. We need to grow ourselves up in it. And so we're going to find people that are showing ourselves to us simply because of the fact that we tend to gravitate towards people that are like us. And so there's also a saying that's a thing, that if you want to see who you are going to be in 5 years, of who you're going to be and what your life is going to look like, look at your friend circle. Because whoever you're spending time with, whoever you're spending the most time with energetically, just being in the same thoughts, eating the same foods, whatever you want to call, you're going to end up like that. Because so this idea then of these mirrors and this reflection in this community is this acknowledgement that if you're showing up in my world to reflect back to me, then just by law of magnetism, it's because there's something similar to us. And so especially if you're showing me something I don't like or that I want to reject, interesting that I'd want to reject that, because the only way that it's actually possible to show up is because it's like me. Yeah, just different languaging to be able to say that, maybe. Asha, we're already coming close to time, but I want to grab a couple of things here that you had mentioned, which was one, you said earlier quickly, you're a manifestor generator. I know what that means. I know that a lot of other people don't know what that means.
Mhm.
Not that I want you necessarily to go into full explanation of explaining human design or, that concept. At least people know what it is. Human design, manifestor generators. It's a way to kind of personality, mixes alchemy, astrology, all of these different therapy practices to kind of help break down a person to figure out who they are, why they're here, all of this sort of a thing. So you said manifestor generator. And so what I'm curious is how has that informed you and how that influences how you work with others? How is that a superpower for you that you know that? How is that relevant? So that if other people might want to be like you or understand what it is that you know, how has human design manifestor generator helped you?
Well, it helped me to understand one, I'm just not bossy. I make things happen.
Mm. So that
That's why
gave
I
you
call
some
it,
kind of grace for
personality.
yourself.
Yes, I know how to make things happen. If it's what you
Yes.
want done, we can get it done. Boom, let's do it.
Yes.
That's my
Yes.
personality trait. So
Very simply an ownership.
ownership, and that's it. Ownership. Me
Yes.
not owning it causes more conflict than accept this
Yes.
is who I am. Oh, this is just me. Oh, I'm not
Yes.
bossy, but only someone who may. I just get stuff done. So in that
Yes.
owning as a manifested generator, sometimes as a generator engine get hot and it can burn people. And I understand
Yes.
in doing that, it's okay. That means I'm doing my job. So I'm
Yep.
gonna make things happen. And if people are not able to keep up, it's gonna be like, she moving too fast. Why she think it's part of the
Yes.
nature and getting things moving. And
Yes.
sometimes I can in doing that for things that are comfortable where we want to be stagnant. I'm coming in whoosh.
Yes.
Let's get it
Yes.
happen. So it's a positive and a negative, but that's anything in life. So it's finding balance. But I would say to sum it up, if you're doing therapy with me, we're gonna make some things happen. I always tell people
For
disclaimer, I'm
sure.
not your therapist. We're about to make some things happen. So
Yeah.
works.
So so along that same line, then maybe as a therapist and then maybe as the other, whatever other is, or just
Mhm,
all of you, I don't,
mhm,
what kind of person is seeking you? Who are you best for? Your life experiences, like you shared with it, obviously everything you're doing, and I love this, is a reflection of what you're learning about you, what you're needing, and so you're providing kind of what eating, what you were seeing. So I'm hearing very much that that's your way. And so, what have you found then, if you could kind of sum it up on
mhm.
if I'm trying to figure out, are you for me? What is your core tenet? Your core messages of who you are, of what you've learned that you're now bringing out to navigate your life, that you're predominantly helping others with right now, because we know that
Right
that's changing as you're growing and changing. But right
now.
now,
Focusing on women,
mm,
embracing the feminine energy that flows through them, learning to find places to be soft, to find that flow of life, finding love in all aspects, not just in relationships, but with themselves. Being blissful in all orgasms. Hadn't talked a lot, but
No.
living an orgasmic life. It should be when the
mm,
sun is
mm,
shining, it should be like a chill, like, ooh, that feels good. And if you can
yeah,
be present with just day-to-day things like that, then oh my God, when we talk about intimacy with others, we talk about community and self. It even goes back to what I see is lacking a lot in relationships now. If we don't have
mm,
intimacy with self, we're really having trauma bonds and just sex. We're not really bringing the sacredness of intimacy to grow, which
safety.
it requires vulnerability. So if you still going back to what we were
Yep,
saying, you can't see yourself, you're not dealing with your
yep.
shadow, then over here is going to impact relationships, your sexual life. And we're not even going to talk about shadow sex. That's a whole nother aspect of sex
Mm,
and the
mm.
other side of things
I lived
that
the majority of my sex
right.
life was
But
in
it
shadow
shows
sex.
up. And so I feel like
Yes.
women
So
need
then
to
try
know
to
how to
figure out,
express this because I have some clients and I sit there and listen. I say,
yep.
you know what? You need to be tied up. You're like, what? I said, yeah. Why you may like that, but they
What's your
would never
pearls?
think about exploring that. But I was like, you got some control
Yeah.
issues. Once you can surrender to it, it may be arousing. So, but if you're programmed to
Yes.
think, oh no, that's taboo, but
Yes.
why? You may like it. who said and what judgment until you are trusting yourself to experience through all your senses of what feels good. So that's what I want to teach women
Yes.
about.
I
And once you have
literally
that
was just talking about this.
power and that sensuality, it manifests into money, it manifests into life.
Currency, the current, the flow, like there's a reason, the full like flow of energy, the flow of things, it's called a current. Currency is our money. There's banks, money flows onto banks where it gets stuck. Like if people understood this energetically and learned to speak about all of that, I swear to God, Asha, so that's what we're out here doing, right? it's helping
happy
teach people.
orgasms.
So tell
Yes.
the viewer what shadow sex is. I know, but
Yes.
tell the
Oh,
viewer.
I want
Sabrina, you
some.
tell them about that.
I want some. I didn't talk sex. Let's go. Anyway, let's
I'm not
go.
scared of the ropes now. Look.
I'm not scared of shadow sex. Let's go.
Can you define it?
Shadow sex is really like that, sometimes that side, what we may say is the dark side, but it's really innate desires that we may have, and however it may look, whether some have that long and always wish they can dance on a pole and be that sensual seductress, to the one that are very timid in the world, but behind closed doors, if they can spank you and have that dominating aspect, that gives them that sense of power, but it's not taboo. So
Confidence.
it's
Right?
confidence in different areas. So, but because in our society, often that patriarchal view is like having that side can only be if it's in a darker shadow. Because the average women, we don't
Only
operate in that.
whores would be that confident in the bedroom,
Right.
right? Like
So it's
there's all those labels.
so it's really that dark side that many of us have. Like when I do a lot of events, I always say, what's your alter ego? What's the shadow self? What is the side of you that nobody knows? Or as we talk about that shadow side, if we don't handle our traumas, it sometimes can go to a deviant
Informed. Yeah.
side as well that has to come
Mhm.
into balance, and things get stuck in what we say, that sacral chakra of our
Mhm.
sexual identity and sexual expression. If we had early trauma, it can alter how we express ourselves sexually as well.
Mhm.
That can take it over to an unbalanced side
And like you
too.
said, then it's deviant,
Right.
and then just for definition purposes, is deviant then is often can cause distress to yourself and not just then to others.
Right.
That's when it becomes a problem for people. Is that if they have an interruption to that pattern, that it literally throws off the whole day. Like it's almost a compulsion and OCD at that point. Whenever for that person that it's becoming deviant versus just whatever you want to call it, not kinky, even you want to call it kinky or whatever else you want to call it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Brilliant. Well, we're close to wrapping up, but I want to ask about, since we were segueing and talking a bit about sex and desire and sexuality and how that's expressed and shadow sex, and it's a thing and all of this. I know that and fairly, well, I guess recently that I'm seeing more that the lotus spot, as far as, you, Asha, we want to know how to get a hold of you. So tell us in a moment. But a Shakti Wellness, you've got the clinic and your therapy place and the different things that you've been doing. And I know you've got some new space that you've been looking at. So definitely want to, I know you'll be offering some new things and whatnot. But aside from a Shakti Wellness, then Lotus Spot is kind of a program within that you're offering that is focused more on sexuality, sensuality, bridging some of these gaps, offering different events. I know that you just had a couple events actually, doing different things. I think there's one even coming up. You want to tell us a little bit more about if you do have something coming up, or is that a separate website subscription? Tell me a little bit about your Lotus Spot
Yes,
situation.
as I'm looking at the time, 1, 2, 3, 4, all in divine alignment. I'm loving it. So yes, the Lotus Spot is a place for women to come in to be able to embrace the sensual side and get some education and be in a community with others. I found out in talking about certain topics, all women don't like to be on Facebook and social media. So I wanted to have a separate place for women to come to, in which the Lotus Spot is www.lotusspot.com, and it's where workshops are offered monthly. We have forum groups, and there is a membership for only $11.11 to get certain backdoor information that we have that allows you to attend the webinars for free. And then we do have private events where we incorporate some of the different teachings of the arts from Tantra. We have sensual dance classes, learning to embrace the sensuality through yoga and movement. Education on Tantra, lingual massages, what are yoni massages? How do they benefit us? How do we know that our yoni has trauma imprints from sex? All of that goes into that side. So that is a spinoff from basically giving a lot of my clients another sector of healing, of wellness, to have a place to go and explore these topics that often we don't know who to talk to about. So it's another safe place to explore that and through the events and education. So that's how it all tied in.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yes, and thank you
All
so
the
much
things that
for
I
the
wish
work
I
that you're doing.
had instead of just reading in books. Look, now I just provide it for folks.
Right? That are live
Like, this is
places,
what
real
I wanted.
people.
Because I get creative. Sometimes
Yes, real
I'm
people
like, you
doing
know
real
what?
things.
I would love to be able to paint a nude body. The next thing you know, the Lotus Spot is having an event where we're doing erotic art painting. So again, my activities are from my mind. So no telling what you may get.
Nice.
Yes, I love it. I love you so much. Thank you, Asha.
Yeah.
Now, real quick, so we
Thank
say
you.
all of our last things, and then how do we get a hold of you? So, what's your, your socials if you have them? What's the best way to get in contact and to learn more about what you're doing?
Websites, definitely www.lotusspot.com for that, or you can go, if you're interested in wellness service and counseling, Ashakti Wellness, which is www.ashakti, ASHAKTI Wellness. You can
And
find me
we'll
on
have those
Facebook.
links.
Yes, as Ashakti Wellness, Instagram, the Chakra Therapist, and there's also the Lotus Spot site. I've just partnered with another integrative wellness practitioner who is also a sex therapist and a kink therapist, where we are coming together to provide a community space. I call it Therapeutic Playhouse, to have events such as yoga, meditation, a lot of the workshops to offer for that interactive aspect. So yes, and that is the Zenchi Lounge here in Charlotte, North Carolina. So
Fabulous. I
Thank
absolutely
you.
loved having.
Yeah.
Yes,
thank you for having
loved
me.
having you again in the chat. Of
Yes.
course.
Yes.
Anything else that you want to leave us with before I say the last K&T wrap up stuffs? You got everything off your chest, off your chesticles. Thank you so much. Okay, so we've got again next month. We're gonna join us again for our podcast for next month. This has been amazing having you, Asha. Again, Asha with ashaktiwellness.com, therapist, Reiki, body, mind, spirit, sexuality, women, community, very big on, creating safe spaces for expression. And so if you're wanting or needing more of that, you're in the Charlotte area, also online. Again, lots of these communities are online these days. So no matter where you're at, you can also be a part of those, as well as Kiss and Tell magazine. We're online, we're anywhere that you are. Keep sending in your stories, what it is that you want to hear more about. If you have any suggestions for somebody that you would like us to bring on, then, give us a holler, and keep checking back. We've got all kinds of new stuff coming out, our directory, more podcasts. We've got some amazing more articles that are coming out, different things. So we appreciate all of you. We appreciate all of you in our community, our common unity of sharing and getting us all on the same page as far as what's going on out here. Blessings to everybody. Jenny,
Thank you.
anything on your way out?
No, thank you. And don't forget to subscribe.
Yes. Link, follow, like, subscribe, share with your friends.
Like,
all of those things.
Yes.
Yes.
You.
All right, friends. Be well. Take care. Thank you here from Kiss and Tell.